Hey guys, this is Hades. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video. Guys, we're going to drop the top 20 champions for arena damage. It includes a few single target hitters, but mainly AoE nukers. These are the best in order from my view of the 20th up to the 1st. Let's do it. So where I've got a champion that I'm actually using in my teams, I'm going to show you the build that I've got, and I'm going to show you the masteries that I've got, and where I haven't, I'm just going to talk through what I think they can do and why they're good. So number 20 for me comes in with Skullcrown. She's still absolutely amazing in the arena. She's probably been a bit power crept over the years with other champions coming in with really cool abilities and big hits, but she still hits hard, and she's still got a really, really good passive skill, which means that if she drops low health, she's still going to get another hit away because she will become unkillable. She's got an absolute nuke on her A2. Don't worry about the weaken, just build her for damage. And she's got another AoE on the A1. So my one here is actually in an immunity set. And the reason she's in immunity is because she's actually in a blender team where if I get hit by a Hedgy, it's fine. If I get hit by a Torment, it's fine because everybody's in immunity gear. And she's built to have massive attack, massive crit damage, no speed. I don't need speed at all because a blender means an ally attack champion is going to force her to do an A1. And an A1 will do a hell of a lot of damage with that much attack and crit damage. In terms of masteries, you'll see similar masteries for a lot of my nukers, but basically Helm Smash is where it's at for a lot of these champions. And because she's going as my first champion in a blender, she's actually got the shield breaker mastery in case I'm up against shields. Things like Ruthless Ambush are really important in a nuke build. And things like do more damage if someone's low health. Do more damage when you're attacking people with higher HP, because I'm not building them with high health. So number 20 is Skullcrown. So number 19 then, Cleopteryx got buffed. She got buffed well in terms of damage. I'm not sure her kit's that great, but she's got two big AoEs. Yeah, and the first one here, the A2, actually buffs her own crit rate and crit damage before she hits. Basically means you only have to build her with 70% crit rate. That means that you can build her stats really high in terms of damage and get away with it. So Cleopteryx is a big nuke. She's got two AoEs, which means that if you don't get the job done first time, you can come in with the second AoE and still finish the job. But yeah, Cleopteryx is a really solid damage dealer. Number 18 then, Ruel the Huntsmaster. Interestingly, this guy is actually the hardest hitter in the game. Yeah, there's nobody who does a bigger AoE smack than Ruel. But the reason why he's not higher is because he's just got way more setup that's required, and there's not really the champions to do it yet. So Ruel should really come out of the vault for a lot of people. Basically, he's got an AoE on his A2 here, places an extra hit if there's a Hex out there, and that's when he gets to top spot. It's a conditional extra hit. So we'll ignore 25% of each target's defense if there are 4 or more enemies under Hex. So you need the whole enemy wave to be under Hex, and then you've got basically a built-in Savage set. Building with Savage set as well, and you're ignoring 50% of the target's defense, which is nuts. Then you get a Helm Smasher proc, and it's like, where is your defense? He blows everybody up. So it's fun. We kind of need a support champion that gives Hex guaranteed and boost turn meter. If we had someone that did increase attack, boost turn meter, and Hex, it's a lot to ask. But if we had those 3 things in one skill, Ruel would probably be way up there in the meta. Okay, next champion in the mix is Robar. Again, Robar is actually one of the highest hitters in the game, but he's difficult to set up. So Robar has got this ability here on his A3. Attacks all enemies. Damage increases if the target is under one of these different kind of control abilities. So if you go in and you get a sleep with a Kymar and then come in and smack with a Robar, he will basically kill anyone. But if there's someone like a Rotus in the enemy team, he can't kill it because it's not a double hit. He can get weak hits. If they don't have any control on them, then the damage is kind of just okay. It's not insane. So again, it's a little bit more about have you got the setup to make him work. And if you have, he then does a lot of damage. And he's also got a second AoE here, which does make him a useful champion to have as a damage dealer, as a nuker. So the next champion to talk about then is Ethos. Ethos is a really high damage dealer. I've actually got mine built as a campaign farmer for Nightmare campaign right now, rather than as my arena nuker. But the build is pretty similar. High attack, 100% crit rate, high crit damage. And we've got a kind of similar set of masteries to what I showed earlier on coming into Helm Smasher here. The reason why Ethos is so good is for 2 reasons. He's got 2 AoE hits. His second one's actually a triple hit, so it deals with someone like a Rotus. And then his last one is actually a always critical hit. Unfortunately, the A2 does need crit rate to activate. So if they made the A2 also always a critical hit, he might actually be one of the best champions in the game for this. But because it's not, you have to build him 100% crit rate, and therefore the kind of this is always critical doesn't really factor, which is a shame. But anyway, his A2 and his A3 are both hard hits. They're both AoEs, and he gets back to them really quick because his A1 also got a chance of proccing an extra turn. His Void Affinity means he can beat up any affinity enemies, but he doesn't quite hit at the level of some of the top tier guys. The next one we're going to talk about then is Hedgy. Hedgy can be an absolute nuke. He's not like the highest damage in the game, but he's guaranteed to go before the enemies go. Yeah, his passive means he will always go before the enemies go. So you can actually lay a massive hit before the enemies even get a turn. Sometimes actually like one-shot an enemy team before they even move, which makes him a top tier nuker. But a lot of people, me included, play him as a control champion. So I've got mine in a stun set here. I've actually got 0 crit rate added with my gear. It's literally as low crit rate as possible because I don't want to proc a mastery which lets them boost turn meter. And I've actually got decent accuracy, high speed Hedgy going with high accuracy kind of masteries. But you could also go full damage, full nuke, savage gear, and similar masteries to what I've shown before. And then he would crucify anyone in like gold 4, gold 5 before they even get a turn. Right then, coming in at number 14 is one of the new champions, Shivnath. Done some playing with her on the test server, and damn, I keep saying she. I don't know if it's a he actually. It might be a dude. Anyway, this individual hits hard. Yeah, we've got an A3, which is a double hitter as well. The first hit taking away any buffs. So the second hit then ignores defense with no buffs, which does mean you need some accuracy to do the kind of buff removal part first. It's not always the easiest build to do, but it is worth the accuracy, at least like to a couple of hundred, because ignoring 20% defense is what makes it such a smack. Yeah, it's on a 3-turn cooldown. It is an absolute cannon of a hit, and because it's a double hit, kind of gets through the Rotus problems. Also just got kind of an interesting kit anyway. Increases his champion's crit damage for each debuff on each enemy, so you can actually get a chunk more damage away if you've already got your debuffer going before Shivnath goes. But yeah, really interesting champion and hard hitter, number 14. So my number 13 then is Ray. Ray's got all AoE hits. Every hit is a cannon. The A1's not terribly hard, but it's not bad. But the A3 is a really hard-hitting cleanse ability. So she actually comes in and smacks. She clears all buffs and then can freeze. Yes, 70% chance to freeze with this after cleaning all buffs. The A2 is one of the hardest hitting abilities in the game as long as there are debuffs on the enemy. So she does 50% more damage if there's a debuff. So if someone's setting her up with a drop defense, she will clear the wave, no problem. Yeah, Ray is an absolute beast. And because she's also got control and she's got a kind of extra AoE on her A1, she just becomes an absolute legend when it comes to arena. Her biggest problem is a low HP. She's actually a bit difficult to keep alive if she takes a hit. But yeah, definitely a high damage potential champion. Okay, the next one up is Mort Macabre. Mort is way stronger now that we've got stuff like Stone Skin in the game. Because Mort needs to take hits to get his absolute cannon away. But he does become a major threat for the arena. So he's got this ability here, Peril. Attacks one enemy 2 times, ignores shield and block damage, as well as defense. It's like a true damage hit, basically. Enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived, and the damage is based on HP. So you build his HP up. You build him as a high crit rate, crit damage champion, HP in Stone Skin. He has to take a hit to activate this, so there's a chance to activate it every time he's hit. If someone hits with a multi-hitter, it's like getting a double chance of activating Peril. And then when he gets it, he block revives. So you pick someone out, a high defense enemy, and he will one-shot anyone in the game. And they won't get up. So Mort becomes one of the worst enemies to face in the arena because at any point he can just proc this unreal skill and do a load of work. He's also got a double hitter AoE, which is not bad, but it's not crazy high damage. It's all about really getting Peril to proc. Okay, coming in at number 12 then is Foley. Foley has got a cool passive, so can't be stunned, frozen, slept, provoked. Instead, he jumps forward turn meter, which is quite cool. He's got, and this is why he's kind of in this position, because his damage levels are kind of okay. They're nothing better than we've seen in Skullcrown or some of these other champions. But he's got this ability here on an AoE, which has got a block revive on it. So anyone he kills with the A3 will stay dead, unless Lydia's doing some shenanigans. He's also got a bit of turn meter drop in this as well, but that's not really what he's there for, the block revive. Now, anyone you target will be hit twice. So he can target a Rotus, take him down. He can keep a Torment in the dirt. He does need setup, though. He needs increased attack. He needs the enemies to have drop defense to really get this skill away. But he is awesome because of the block revive in a meta where there's a lot of revive champions. So next one on the list here, we're approaching the top 10. We've got number 11 is Herndig. Herndig is an absolute beast. Like, just does loads of damage, and he's awesome in the arena because he's got kind of anti-warlord mechanics, anti-Yumiko mechanics. So he's got this A3, fully depletes an enemy's turn meter, will then AoE if he does a crit. Yeah, and it's a hard hitter. He's got another AoE in his A2, which is a drop defense. Both of them are hard hitters. And he's got this A1 that if he goes in and kills someone, he gets an extra turn and decreases the cooldown of the AoE on the A3. So if Warlord does lock him out, the A1 can actually start to stack him back into the game. And before you know it, you're doing another AoE and you're taking down a whole wave. He hits as hard as Arena NUKERS hits, but he's also got some really good debuffs as well. So he can kind of play either or role, really. He could be your drop defense with a load of damage to then set up your final nuke, or he can just be your final nuke. Okay, I think I made a mistake with my countdown. I think we're already on number 9, which is Magnar. Magnar is an awesome epic champion. It doesn't really need a lot of setup. It's all about his A2. So he comes in with an AoE hit. As long as there are not HP burns out there, he'll hit twice. When he hits twice, he's basically doing the same level of damage as some of the top legendary damage dealers, but his damage is based on HP, which means he can stay alive and be a really good nuker in a go second team without too much worry of him dropping down dead. So yeah, Magnar, absolutely top tier. He's got an okay A1, an okay A3, but it's mainly about the A2 nuke, which on a 310 cooldown, you actually get back to pretty fast if you don't do the job first time round. Okay, then number 8 is Soulless. Soulless, I've played around with, I've used for quite a while. Massive base defense. He's a defensive unit, which means that all of his damage is also the same mechanic which keeps him alive. Yeah, it's defense. He's got huge HP as well. He's a really, really good champion. So basically, Soulless does an A3 here. So he's got an increases duration, debuffs, whatever, and places provoke, fine. But the damage increases by 10% for each debuff on a target. So if you can just set this up to have drop defense, weaken, poisons, whatever really, any debuffs that you can get out there before he hits will just increase his damage. If this gets above a kind of 10-20% damage increase, he becomes one of the hardest hitters in the game. He is the best defensive champion damage dealer in the game. Yeah, and if you set him up with someone like a Seafy or a Doomscreech, then damn, he is doing work. If you don't get the job done first hit, he's actually got a good A2 as well, which just, if booked out, 100% chance of just cleaning out all buffs on 3 different hitters, or 3 different enemies, depending on who he hits. And then put, say, provoke out there as well, which cannot be resisted. So it's just an awesome A2 as kind of like a filler hit if you need it. Right then, number 7, following his recent buff, is Constantine. His buff was significant. Okay, really significant, because they changed his passive. And now enemies from Undead, Demon Spawn, and Night Revs that he kills will be block revived. Yeah, it doesn't need Vlad to do that. If Vlad's on the same team, everybody's block revived. It's a massive change, massive change, because there's so many meta champions in the Undead, the Demon Spawn, and the Night Revs. Yeah, especially in terms of arena defensive champions. Kaimars, Duchesses, Candies, Hedgies, and the list goes on. So, you know, Rotus, Seafys, there's so many in these factions that you're up against all the time. It just makes this a really, really good passive. So what's he got here? He's got a double hitting AoE ability. Double hits is really important, again, because of people like Rotus. The only negative to a double hit is probably someone like Vodoff, where when you hit them, the first hit, it heals up, second hit comes in, and you might not do the job. Each hit ignores defense for every debuff, including these ones. Leech, drop defense, block active skills. Chances are, for most fights, you're only going to have block defense there, or decreased defense there. So you're going to get like a 10% ignore defense. It's still massive, and the hit does a lot of damage. Again, put him in your kind of savage gear. He's going to be ignoring even more defense, and he should one-shot really anybody in the game. He's void affinity as well, which means that he can fight any affinity and not even worry about it. And he does have an okay kind of A1, A2 abilities. His A1 and his A2, I think, are okay. I don't think they're anything too crazy. His A1, in fairness, places an extra hit if the target is under any debuff. It is a hard hit in A1. And again, because of the passive now, it can block revive. So actually it becomes a really good skill. And the A3 is a good single target damage dealer. So yeah, the other two abilities are good, but the A2 is where it's at to try and just clean a wave out, or at least clean some of the wave and keep it dead. Okay, then coming in number 6 is Rotus, the Lost Groom. He's still the king. I actually did a video when he was nerfed a while back, and I was like, he will rise again. And he did, and he has. Yeah, Rotus, the Lost Groom, despite his nerf. And if you can imagine, he's number 6 now. Before that nerf, he was literally the most insane champion. You'd fight a Rotus before the nerf, and you had 4 champions left, and he's a single target hitter, and you still felt to yourself, I'm probably going to lose. Yeah, that's how nuts he was. He's still good, though. So he's got an A3, which attacks an enemy and will ignore a whole load of defense, 60%. If you do a load of A2s, then that A3 can block revive. But honestly, in Arena, it never happens. You never get to the point where it works, which is a shame. They've kind of nerfed him a bit too hard in terms of the whole block revive mechanic. I would have nerfed him in a different way. Anyway, his A3 kills someone because he ignores so much defense, and then he gets another hit. And he can either go into his A1, which hits for an okay amount, and hope for another extra turn proc, 25% chance here, or go into his A2, and you're kind of like, you could kill someone with the A2, it hits for a decent amount, but if not, you're grabbing a load of extra health to keep him alive. Another cool thing about Rotus is you have to hit Rotus twice, or he comes at you. So anyone who's doing that kind of single target AoE nuke, when he gets to 50% health, cuts in, and he kills someone. And then potentially, because he'll cut him with his A3, he'll kill someone, then he might kill someone else. Yeah, so all of a sudden, you've AoE hit an enemy. Rotus is like, no, 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 my turn. And he smacks 2 people dead. He becomes very difficult to kill. And he basically forces you to play in a certain style to be able to kill him. You have to use certain champion mechanics to be able to kill a Rotus, which makes him really valuable in the current meta. If you pair him with a Sifi as well, Sifi will just clear all debuffs off of him before he has a turn. So freezes, stuns, etc. They don't work if Sifi and Rotus are together. Makes him really nuts. So my one, again, I've got like the Helm Smasher here for the extra chance to ignore defense and the kind of normal damage masteries. I do have a couple of slightly different ones here. So Blood Shield, because he does gain a lot of extra health, means that the shield can be pretty strong on him, and he's not going to kill everybody in one go. It's probably the main different one to what I would normally run. And I've got him with Savage Gear again for more ignoring defense. 100% crit rate, of course. 6k attack, 237 crit damage. But I do scale a bit more HP than I normally would for a nuker, because he does need to be able to take a hit. And then when he starts to ramp up his HP from his A2, he actually becomes pretty unkillable. He could be up to 100,000 HP if he had to do a long fight, which is nuts. Let's move on to the next one, who is going to be Cupidus. Cupidus has massively risen in the ranks, okay? But only if Venus is around. Yeah, let's be fair. Cupidus without Venus is strong. Probably would be towards the bottom of the list. Probably would have just wiped Skullcrown down a level. But with Venus, Cupidus is now a plat meta champion. He's actually insane. This build is not my final build. I did a build on the test server, which I did a video of, showing just how insane he can be. And I'll pin that one at the end for you guys to have a look at. But this is kind of like my standard build that I had around for a while. He's a +4, so he gets extra stats, quite a lot. But yeah, high crit damage, 100% crit rate with attack. Probably a bit of accuracy just for the burns if you're going to use them in stuff like Hydra. But for Arena, just all about that crit damage and 100% crit rate with high attack. In terms of masteries, again, like Helm Smasher to ignore defense. Yeah, and why is he so good now? Well, when Venus is around, he does 25% more damage. And he will always counterattack if he's hit. So if you've got him in Stone Skin gear, or if you've got him partnered with someone like Necrit to protect him, you take a hit, he comes back with his A1. If Venus is around, 25% more damage, plus 15% more damage if there's a debuff out there. So 40% harder hit with his A1, and the A1 already hits hard. So yeah, Cupidus becomes really strong with this ability. His A2 has now become an AoE, And this AoE is like a top 10 ability in the game for damage if Venus is around. So, bam, you've got 2 massive hits, and he's got a single target nuke with a self buff. Yeah, this guy is absolutely insane now. And, you know, what's that? Top 5. Okay, this dude's coming in 4th. Efrack. Probably some people thought he might be number 1. In my opinion, he's number 4. The reason for it is although he is a harder hitting champion than the other 3 we're going to talk about, it's very conditional, and I think it's harder to activate. Okay, so Efrack has got this A2, which can be a double hit, and each hit will ignore 15% of the enemy's defense. I've done videos on this. It hits harder than a trunder. It hits harder than any ability in the game for an AoE. Harder than any ability, maybe with the exception of Ruel. So this is nuts. But you do need the extra hit for it to do that level of damage. Without the extra hit, he actually still hits kind of to the level of a Cupidus without the extra hit. But with the extra hit, he hits twice a Cupidus. And don't forget, I just said Cupidus is like a top 10 AoE hit. So it is crazy. But the trouble is, there's a lot of arena defensive champions that will stop you doing this. Yeah, if you just don't get enough damage with the first hit, if there's a Duchess with a Surga and some of these kind of real meta defensive champions, then you won't get the extra hit and therefore you won't kill everybody. So although he's insane, the reason why he's not kind of even higher on the list is because if he doesn't kill with those double hits, he's squishy. He's got very low base HP, can't take a hit. He's got no built-in mechanics to make him take a hit. One of the things which is really cool about this dude is his passive. So whenever anyone on your team dies, he will do this massive AoE. But bearing in mind, he's the low health, low defense champion. It's hard to build a team where it's not just him being the one who's dead. Yeah, you've almost got to bring in like a meme team to make that work. Or he has to be in stone skin gear. Therefore, you need very high damage stone skin gear. But if you can do that, then, you know, this guy is probably even higher on the list. So it's all situational around how you build him out. But Efrack is coming in for me number 4. He's definitely top tier, but he needs a little bit more setup than some of the other guys. Okay, then my number 3 is acandraphon. This guy used to be weak as hell. He got buffed, and he got buffed to a really great level. Why is he my number 3? He's probably number 1 if we're talking about defensive nuker. Yeah, if we're just talking about a defensive champion, someone you put in a defense rather than an offense, he's probably number 1. But in terms of offense, or in terms of just brute power, I've put him as number 3. I've got him in mine in Savage Gear. I've got a decent level of attack and an okay level of crit damage. It's probably like my 3rd level Savage Gear on my account. I've got him quite fast, mainly for arena defense. I want him to get a go and I want him to do some work. Again, mastery is pretty similar. I do have the counter-attack masteries because I want him to hit with his A1 as many times as I can. That's his kind of real killing ability. So he's got a passive. This is what makes him so great. Damage increases by 40% when under a veil or perfect veil. So if you're using him in offense, you kind of want someone to then go before him, like a Duchess. Gives you increased attack, gives you a veil, and then he's going to let loose, and he will kill pretty much anything in the game. But he does get this veil in defense if somebody does a turn meter boost. Yeah, so if you've got someone like Arbiter who's boosting the turn meter of the enemy, instantly he's got a veil on, which means that he's done a hit for 40% more. He will also receive 40% less damage coming in. So pretty much, it's almost like a half hits coming at you. Yeah, which means that he generally will get a turn. When he does get a turn, his AoE is a hard hit. It's one of the harder hitters in the game, probably like top 20 hits for an AoE. But his A1 is actually where it's nuts. So any champion that you fight that's got a buff on, he will double hit with his A1. And the A1 is one of the hardest, if not the hardest A1s in the game. If you get the double hit, it will kill pretty much anybody. So yeah, his A1 is where it's super painful. You actually turn off this amazing A3 where he gets all of these buffs because you just want him to be doing either A3 or A1s. Oh, sorry, A2 or A1s. But yeah, Candy comes up there as my number 3. So my number 2, and she's recently dropped to 2. And this is actually after a bit of coaching and gameplay with Rats. And I would have put her as number 1, honestly, until I kind of understood the current meta better. But Trunder, she's still up there as one of the easiest hard-hitting champions to own, yeah? So she doesn't need a lot of setup, and she can kill almost anything that's out there. In terms of masteries, I've got the similar type of stuff here you can see. And in terms of items, I've actually got mine as an immunity Trunder. So she's in a go second team for me. where I'm expecting to be hit by some, someone like a Hedgy, and then I proc into action. And I will show this team actually whilst I talk about Trunder. So Trunder, let's find a Hedgy to face. Hedgy, here we go. Trunder's in my go second team. And basically the idea here is we take a hit, Foley pushes our turn meter on, so we actually, in effect, become a go first team. You see here, we'll take a hit, Foley will boost our turn meter. We become actually a go first team. Arbiter then gets us going. We lock out the enemy, and Trunder comes in with her A3. And her A3, as long as there's no kind of increased defense and stuff out there, she will blow anyone up. So her A3 is super solid. If you've got a high HP opponent, she actually has got an A2, which is also incredibly hard hitting. So her A2 will hit somebody, but then she'll do an AoE second hit. Now it says here it will deal 60% of the damage inflicted from the first hit. But actually she gets like a double multiplier of her crit damage. So if you hit someone with high HP and low defense and hit hard, she'll basically one-shot everybody else. It's kind of broken. The way the game codes the second hit is as if it was all single target hits instead of an AoE hit. And that means that passives like a Duchess passive won't kick in and block any of the damage. Yeah, it's really important. Stalwart gear won't kick in and block any of the damage. So it's kind of coded in a weird way, which makes it like insanely strong. So you've got an A2. As long as she hits twice, you want low accuracy in her build because you want her to hit twice. As long as she does, it's one of the hardest hits in the game. And A2 is also one of the hardest hits in the game. So she's my number 2. But number 1, and recently converted, is Leorius the Proud. Wow. This dude has got it all going on. As I say, recently converted. Similar type of mastery setup to what I've had on other champions. I've got Savage and Cruel gear to ignore as much defense as I can. I'm punching up high attack, high crit damage, fairly slow, because actually I don't need a fast nuker. I need everyone else in my team to set him up so that he can be slow. And I'll show you 2 teams with this guy. We've got a passive that as you take more damage, you do more damage. Yeah, so the more HP he loses, the closer he gets to Trunder level damage until he eventually surpasses it if he was on 1 HP. The reason why this is good is because he's also unkillable when he drops low, similar to Skullcrown, the first champion we spoke about. So he's very effective in a go second team as well as a go first team. So he's got an AoE where he hits twice on his A2. As long as this doesn't proc, he'd basically be immune to any turn meter control. So not only is he unkillable, it's also very difficult to control him to stop him using that unkillable buff. So stuns are not working, freezes are not working, sleeps are not working. He's just like that. I'm still going to hit you. And then he's got the A3, which doesn't hit quite as hard as the A2, but it's got an AoE true fear off it as well. It doesn't really matter. You may as well just go out there with the full nukes and worry very little about accuracy because he's going to kill stuff anyway. But yeah, his A2 and A3 are both absolute nukes. Let me show you 2 teams where I've got running this dude. So we've got one where it's kind of like basically a fast team for me. So Hedgy comes in, pushes back the turn meter of any enemy that's really going to go faster than me. So in this instance, it would be Kaimar. We then lock out the enemy, and then Leorius will come in and smack everybody down. 90k across the board. So in that instance, it's like, okay, what are you going to do? And then if I find another kind of like, maybe a Tormund's a good example. Tormund or Hedgy team, really. Someone where the team is likely to have an ability to try and like stop you working. So this is basically building him alongside a net crit. Net crit protects him. Everyone else here is in stone skin or immunity gear so that I don't get frozen. And basically a Tormund becomes no problem for me. You see here, we come in with the double smack. Everybody dead. Tormund pops back up, whatever. We don't care. And he's going to come in with the other big hit next and say, have a rest, Tormund. Take yourself outside. Similarly with a kind of Hedgy build. So if we're expecting to go second, we could kind of deal with that as well. Or if there's someone that I just think is going to be faster than me, like this team here, I've got another team built out where basically I'm designed to go second. So everybody's in stone skin or immunity sets. I'm designed to be slow. Everybody here less than 180 speed on my team. They go first. They boost all their turn meter. They try and do a whole bunch of shenanigans to me. They try and drop my defense and stuff, whatever. Trunder says, here's a little tickle. And then it's like, no, hold on, it's my turn. Increase attack and accuracy. We're then going to drop your defense. And Leo says, well, firstly, we do a little ally attack. Why not? Take someone out with the little 1-2. And then Leo says, hold on, 140k in your pocket. And everybody is dead. Apart from stupid Lydia here. But that's the idea. So Leo becomes so versatile over these teams that he takes #1 spot. There you go, guys. That's my top 20 arena champions. I've been Hell Hades. I'll catch you later.